Hello and welcome to the 90MinuteCynic podcast. I am your host, Chris Gallagher, and I'm joined by Christopher Sermanni.
Good evening.
And Ciaran Harran.
Good evening.
Making a welcome return. So we've got a lot to talk about. We'll start with, funnily enough, Celtic. You okay? Someone having a coughing fit over there?
I'm absolutely fine.
Good.
Thank you for asking.
Still getting over the Roma result last night, yeah. We'll get to that.
We'll get to that.
But yeah, we're going to talk about Celtic. Is it time to switch the panic button? Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. We'll talk about Roma, we'll talk about the EPL, we'll talk about the Scottish Premier League. We will start, however, just covering the Celtic versus Hamilton game. Celtic versus Hamilton at Celtic Park finished 1-0 to Hamilton. Hamilton are now top of the league. Celtic find themselves in 6th position. Ciaran, you were at the game. Just kind of initial thoughts?
I thought I hear us all about this poor performance, bad performance getting banded about. I think for me it was a frustrating performance because we had chances. We had quite a few chances, ones that should have been taken, and I think when you see some of them, I think the players are losing confidence. So they are. There was one where Stokes was kind of clear with the goal, and he side foots it. Now, side footing it, you would have to look at the goal to see where the keeper is to make sure you know you're doing it. If you're going to hit it without looking, then you better put your laces through it because you know where the goal is anyway. So if you hit it towards the goal, it's going to probably go in. Easy Guiri as well. Ball played through him at the 6-yard line. Smash it. I said he cuts it back. I think Guidetti as well, and I think there was the Stokes header. So I mean, we had chances, we just couldn't finish them. I think as well down the wings, the amount of chances that Ambrose, Izzy and Stokes had of getting the ball in, they had so much opportunities, but their crossing was just woeful.
So you would stack up to just luck in terms of not taking your chances.
Not taking the chances. I mean, there was parts of the play where they were quite poor. Some of the passing wasn't there. There wasn't a lot of movement up front. Some players weren't even in the game. I mean, Wakaso was barely in the game. Commons, his touch wasn't there. But I think a lot with that sometimes was he played in the middle and they were crowding him out again. I think a lot of teams now see as Commons the one. See if you just crowd out the centre right in front of the half circle at their own penalty box, then Celtic are going to have nothing because everything seems to go through the Commons. Nobody else seems to want to step forward and show their creativeness. Like Ocaso was quiet. Stokes isn't the type of creative player who should be playing out in the wing.
Yeah. Chris, we keep having this discussion on a weekly basis. Nothing seems to be, changing maybe at the rate we would like. Are we just maybe impatient? Is this just another little road bump, or what are your thoughts on the game?
I wasn't there. I was there on Thursday for the Dinamo game, and
which by the way we'll get to as well because it's not all doom and gloom.
Right. Is it another road bump? No, I would say there's something seriously wrong in the team. I do take Ciaran's point on board about the amount of chances we missed, but we're consistently missing these chances and have been all season. If you look at the stats for the games that we've played, we are creating a large number of chances, lots of shots on goal, and we're not taking them. And I do take Ciaran's point on board as well about confidence. I think that's affecting our confidence. Whether we're at the stage whereby we produce a Dundee United style performance and absolutely spank a team and we kick on from there, that's a possibility. Or it might be that there's a real disharmony in the squad that Deila is ultimately responsible for, and we're just kind of going to keep, putting in half-arsed performances, winning the odd game, drawing games and dropping points. I don't know what it is, but there is a real disharmony in the team I can see just now. I don't think people are quite sure what they're supposed to be doing. It just looks really disjointed. We are creating chances, but there's no cutting edge at all in the side right now, and Deila needs to carry the can for that.
The skipper came out, Scott Brown, who was apparently very angry after the game. Just want to come away with it. I'm sure most people have seen them, but I'll just, reiterate these points. Brown was quoted as saying, people were just hiding, and it was disappointing to see and to play in. I take my share of the blame as well. I'm not laying the blame at everyone else because we're all in this together as a team. I'm devastated. I don't do getting beat. Well, you do, Scott. You've been doing it a lot recently. I came to Celtic to win games, and we're not winning games and performing just now, and I don't know why that is. Now, he also goes on to say, I understand the fans' frustration. The frustrations are my own frustrations. Everyone in that dressing room should be devastated with the result. Brown's came out. He's been very honest. People were just hiding, and it was disappointing to see and to play. And that smacks of the point you just made there about disharmony. Who's he talking about? Either of you? I mean, who's he talking about? Ciaran, you were the game.
If I was going on Sunday's performance, I would probably put it at base at Wakaso. I thought Wakaso was hardly in the game. Didn't do anything with the ball. Battlefield running about, up and down, tracking back, chasing, but I can't really think of many good crosses he got in. Didn't have any chances. I know everyone was really getting on Stokes' back, but I thought with Stokes and Izzy, they got a kind of an understanding and a wee kind of partnership going out in the wide. They were doing like kind of touches 1-2, and they were kind of creating space, and they were kind of getting to each other. But again, their final ball in was quite poor. Commons wasn't hiding, like I said, he was just blocked out. Guidetti, I suppose, as well. I mean, he had the one chance, but other than that, I don't think he looks like the very kind of pacey striker that's going to run down the channels or run off the shoulder of the player, the defender. I think he's just kind of almost like a big burly box striker. Sorry.
Yeah. Chris, thoughts? I mean, that's funnily enough talking about Guidetti. I think it was Martin Friel said, there's a chance he could be our Nicholas Bentner. Worrying. Just worrying. What are your thoughts? I mean, what are your thoughts on that sort of... Who do you think he's talking about?
I don't know. Do you think... I'd assume he's not talking about some of the more established players, just because I'm assuming that he's pallier with him. I might be wrong. The first name, and again, I wasn't there, so Ciaran's going to have a better handle than either of us on the game. But all I've heard from people I know that were there, and stuff I've read on the internet, is how bad Johansson was. And as a central midfielder, under Deila, he played with him before, you assumed he'd be the linchpin of the side. And to be frank, he's been diabolical this season.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't be surprised if he was talking about him, because he's really not kicked on. We were talking about this a few minutes ago before we started recording. He was better last season under Lennon, and you would have assumed that Deila, being Deila's player essentially, even though Lennon signed him, he would have kicked on. He would have been the main man. He would have drove us forward. I mean, how often have we seen Johansson? Well, in fact, when you do see him get in the box this season, he's mostly fell on his arse. He did it again against Dinamo during the week.
To be fair, the one with Dinamo, he did great to run onto the ball, avoids a tackle or two, and then he did just fall on his arse.
Exact same as Maribor away.
That's right. Yeah,
he went straight through, fell. And then he also had the double in that game by blocking Van Dijk's header on the line. But Johansson, take a guess. I mean, you genuinely could pick most of the players on the side. You know what I mean? And I mean, as Ciaran was saying about Commons and Stokes, they've been pretty pissed this season. But I wouldn't say they've been hiding. Do you know? They've just looked really poor. That's
one thing I'll say about Anthony Stokes. Even if he's having a bad game, he does want the ball. He always kind of drops for it. That was the same. We always used to talk about Samaras. People used to criticise Georgios Samaras because people didn't know how to take him because people are idiots. But he always wanted the ball. Samaras is not getting a game for West Brom. Then again, that Barrinho guy is absolutely rattling him, and he's got second most top scorer in England. So
he came on the weekend. Last 5 minutes.
Yeah, he's been coming on. He's been coming on for wee cameos. But Brown kind of. I think I found some of his wording quite interesting. That just to use the phrase hiding, to me, I assume he's probably talking about your Tonevs. Because I watched the game yesterday, and to be honest, it was halfway through the game and I turned to Bowd and I said, "Is Tony even playing?" He was that poor, was he not playing?
No, that never started.
Right, okay.
So that's why you couldn't see him.
Yeah.
He came on for the last 20 minutes, but weirdly enough, I think at one point we changed and we went with, he pulled Stokes and put Stokes up beside Griffiths and played the two of them up, with Collins behind. Johansson was kind of the left, but he actually looked as if he played a back two, and he pushed the two fullbacks right up and put Tony inside. And that's point. I mean, Tony was inside, and you just couldn't see him at all.
The Dinamo game, Chris, you were at it. Deila came out afterwards and said, how terrific it was, that the team spirit. I just want to have a couple of quote or two from that. He talked about obviously how amazing Craig Gordon was, which Jesus, he was. It was the team spirit that got us through. We have to take that with us, but we need better passing. Celtic have good goalkeepers. He goes on to talk about how well we were against Dinamo, and we were. But when he says stuff like, when you see the 90 minutes, you'll see that we were the better team. But some of the defending in the Dinamo game was diabolical. I mean, you used that word there, describing Johansson. But we've all seen that still image of the players being attracted to the ball, with the guy in the middle, when obviously Craig Gordon made that incredible save. My fear is we're always going to concede. Now, we didn't against Dinamo through just another world masterclass in terms of goalkeeping, but by all accounts, they had so much pressure and so many chances, a little bit like us against Hamilton, that maybe they should have scored. We're always almost going into these games knowing you're going to lose a goal, and because we're not being as clinical up front, it's just. By the way, I don't have a point here. I'm just really frustrated because we're not being as clinical up front. It's very, very frustrating. I just don't know what the answer is.
See, just to hark back a wee bit to the Dinamo game, a couple of things. One, I don't agree we were the better team at all. I think we performed for around 15 minutes at the start of the first half. Got on top, took the goal, good pass from Stokes, great finish from Commons. Other than that, I think they overran us in midfield. I think defensively we were appalling at times. You just touched on it. 3 men running after the same ball clipped inside, and only Craig Gordon saving us from what potentially could have been a 4-1 down or something. Let's be honest. The fact is, we've got 4 points from 2 games in the Europa League, and I've no idea how. And that's a positive that we've got the 4 points, but let's not kid ourselves here. It's not like we've turned in outstanding performances in Europe and we're up against packed defences at home, and that's where we're tripping up. There's no consistency to our performances whatsoever, and it's worrying. You've got to admit that.
What did you think of the Europa League game, Ciaran?
I unfortunately missed the first half and only caught the second half, which was probably the worst half to watch, because from what I remember, it was backs against the wall the whole time. They were just coming at us, and again, Craig Gordon saving us. I mean, we've said it so many times. I mean, it's been a great piece of business.
Oh, it's
selling off Foster for 10 to bring in Gordon.
Possibly one of the best, signings we've ever made in terms of value for money. And I know it's only been, we're only in October, but he's got us those 4 points. I mean, he himself has literally almost got us those 4 points.
And the good thing with Gordon as well is, although he's just fresh in the door, he has an experienced keeper, and he doesn't take any minutes from his defenders. The minute anything goes wrong, you will see him going off his nut.
Absolutely.
And he's not scared of who it is. He will tear shots off of anyone if they make a mistake, especially simple ones like 3 of us going to 1 ball.
Yeah, I think as soon as that happened, he went absolutely bananas at I think Denier and thing. And it was just, he didn't care. Now, that's something, and I'm not going to criticise Fraser Foster, who had a terrible game at the weekend, by the way. I don't know if you've seen the Southampton game. How he didn't concede. There was about 3 or 4 chances where he literally just dropped the ball. Anyway, he's not our goalkeeper now. Wish him the best of luck. But the way that Gordon really, puts himself about, he is like a leader. you know. And people are not fans of goalkeepers as captains, but if you look at Gianluigi Buffon or even Schmeichel, that's a position that we could look at in terms of captaincy.
But weirdly enough, I think a captain would always be the best because he's the last man, so he sees the whole play the whole time.
Yeah.
So he can. So